If you look back across human history, the defining characteristic isn't really stability, is it? Or contentment. It's restlessness.
That's right.
We seem built to reach, to tinker, to, unlock new powers, always pushing past whatever limits we find.
We're inventors at our core.
Exactly, inventors. But woven into, like, the very fabric of our oldest stories, the myths that kind of define civilizations, there's this persistent, almost chilling warning.
Mm-hmm.
Today we're doing a deep dive into the source material, exploring this inherent conflict, this tension between human brilliance and, well, the inevitable peril it seems to create.
Yeah, the double-edged sword.
Right. The central theme is surprisingly universal. The spark that gives us light that enlightens us is also the fire that can scorch. The knowledge that saves might also somehow damn us.
And that tension, that's why digging into this is so vital right now. We're looking at sources from, well, all over the place, different cultures, different times.
Like what specifically?
We've got Greek tragedy, Hebrew scripture, Indian philosophy, Mesopotamian epics, and we're even connecting it to modern stuff, like theories around artificial intelligence.
Okay.
And what's really fascinating, maybe even a bit unsettling, is how they all seem to converge on the same basic story. Ingenuity always seems paired with some kind of disaster or fall.
So the mission for you listening is to figure out why these warnings keep popping up everywhere across time. What do they mean for us?
And critically, how understanding them is, well, it's basically essential for navigating our modern world, especially with technology moving at this incredible speed.
Right, because you, our listener, the learner, you're looking for that shortcut, that deeper understanding of this dilemma, how to spot these recurring patterns in history and mythology that define our relationship with invention.
Because if we can truly grasp why Prometheus was chained, maybe, just maybe, we can figure out how to handle, say, the next big AI breakthrough more ethically.
Makes sense. Okay, let's dive in. Let's unpack this.
Yeah.
All right, so when we talk about these foundational Western myths, these stories of transformation, the narrative really kicks off with the original rebel, doesn't it? Prometheus.
Prometheus, yeah. The titan who defied the cosmic order.
His name, the forethinker, that feels incredibly significant right there.
It absolutely is. He foresees the need.
And he steals fire, not just any fire, but the sacred fire of Olympus, and gifts it to mortals. Why fire? Why is that specific act, that theft, so monumental?
Because, well, in the ancient Greek view, and definitely in the text we have, fire isn't just a campfire. It's defined as, like, the very seed of civilization itself.
The seed? How so?
Think about it. Being able to cook food.
Yeah.
That changes us biologically. Bigger brains, right? Forging metal. That kickstarts industry tools building things.
Okay. So it's the raw material for everything. Technology, progress, culture.
Exactly. Without fire, humanity is just another animal, kind of subject to nature's whims. But with fire, suddenly we become masters. Or at least we start acting like masters of our environment.
It's the moment we level up, basically.
In a Promethean sense, yeah. We graduate from the animal kingdom to the realm of the self-determining engineer, the builder, the creator.
But that gift, that huge shift in power, it came with a truly horrifying price tag for Prometheus himself.
Oh, absolutely horrific. Chained to a rock. An eagle eats his liver every single day.
And it grows back overnight just so the torment can start again. Most people read that and just see, Zeus being incredibly cruel, divine sadism.
Right, and that's understandable, but it's where we need to look a bit deeper at what the sources actually emphasize. The suffering, it's not just punishment for punishment's sake. It's presented as a symbolic truth.
A symbolic truth about the gift itself.
Precisely. Think about the organ involved, the liver. In ancient thought, it was the seat of passion, of life force. It regenerates, only to be destroyed again. The punishment is perpetual. It mirrors humanity's own cycle, doesn't it? Progress, then devastation, then rebuilding.
Wow, okay, so the endless torment isn't just the penalty, it actually represents the burden, the consequence of having that power in the first place.
You got it. The gift of fire inherently comes with its shadow. We get technology, progress, warmth, but we also inherit violence, pollution, the potential for mass destruction, and crucially, hubris, the arrogance that comes with power.
And the sources connect this directly to today.
Explicitly. Think about nuclear energy. It powers our cities, gives us incredible capability.
Then it threatens total annihilation.
Right.
Or AI. It can write beautiful poetry, potentially cure diseases.
And it can also destabilize truth, create deep fakes, manipulate populations on a massive scale.
The fire always burns two ways. Prometheus's suffering is the eternal symbol of the burden we carry for possessing this immense dual-natured power. Progress and devastation, they're chained together forever.
Okay, so if the Greek myth tackles the price of physical fire, of technology, let's shift to the Hebrew scriptures, to Eden. This seems more about the intellectual price, right? The price of knowing things. Exactly. Here the currency isn't fire, it's knowledge itself, symbolized by the fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
And what exactly did Adam and Eve gain when they ate it? What changed?
They experienced a profound cognitive leap. They gained discernment, self-awareness, the capacity to choose between right and wrong. Their eyes were, quote, opened. They saw duality.
But the consequence was immediate and, well, catastrophic in a way. Exile from paradise.
Cast out into a world of toil, hardship, mortality, alienation from that original state of harmony. And the sources make a really key distinction here, one that often gets lost.
What's that?
The fruit wasn't inherently evil. It wasn't poisonous in itself. The idea presented is more like it was simply too potent for innocence.
Too potent for innocence. That's a powerful phrase. It suggests knowledge itself isn't bad. Maybe it's even sacred.
It could be seen that way, but acquiring it fundamentally changes you. It transforms your being so much that the original state, that precognitive harmony, it's just gone.
You can't go back.
You can't go back. Knowledge is the ultimate catalyst, but it fractures that original unity. Humanity, the world, suddenly there's a separation. And seizing that knowledge requires sacrificing innocence.
And that sacrifice shows up as toil, hardship, having to work.
Yes, toil, pain, the inevitability of death. But interestingly, that very toil forces the next stage of ingenuity, doesn't it?
How so?
Because paradise doesn't provide automatically anymore. We have to invent agriculture. We have to build tools, create shelters. We're forced into the role of the inventor because we lost Eden.
So it's a necessary, painful awakening. It costs us paradise, but simultaneously compels us to become creators.
Precisely. It's the start of the human project, in a sense, driven by loss.
Okay, so Eden is about the individual cost, the intellectual transformation. Then, a bit later in the biblical narrative, we get the Tower of Babel. This feels different, more about collective ambition, technological hubris on a grand scale.
Exactly. It shifts the focus from individual knowledge to collective action and ambition. The story in Genesis describes this immense project.
They weren't just building a skyscraper, right? There was more to it.
Oh, much more. It was
Yeah.
definitely a marvel of early engineering, logistics, cooperation. But their stated goal, it was explicit. Build a tower with its top in the heavens.
To reach God.
Essentially, yes. And crucially, to make a name for themselves. It was about securing their own permanence, their own legacy, maybe even their own divinity, independent of any higher power.
Like trying to storm the gates of heaven through engineering.
That's a good way to put it. It was an act of profound collective vanity, an attempt to collapse the distance between the human and the divine entirely,
Yeah.
guaranteeing their own survival and status unmediated.
And the response wasn't fire and brimstone, but confusion.
Yes.
Scattering. God mixes up their languages.
Right. The project grinds to a halt because they literally can't communicate effectively anymore.
Now, couldn't some interpretations see that as, well, divine insecurity, God afraid of human potential? Why is it usually framed as a safeguard?
That's the critical interpretive question, isn't it? The sources generally frame this disruption not just as punishment, but as preventing something far worse.
Worse than a failed building project.
Yes. The warning seems to be against total, monolithic human power. Imagine. Humanity unified, technologically advanced, driven by collective ego, all speaking one language, thinking maybe too much alike.
A single point of failure, almost.
Exactly. The sources suggest that if collective ingenuity gets completely unmoored from humility, from any sense of limits, it risks collapsing under its own moral and, frankly, logistical weight. A catastrophic failure, not just of the tower, but of the social and cosmic order.
So confusing the languages. It's like a forced decentralization.
Precisely. It prevents humanity from consolidating into one single, potentially tyrannical entity that could challenge the heavens, or perhaps more realistically, dominate the earth completely. Linguistic diversity becomes a structural impediment to unchecked global power and monolithic thinking. It ensures a certain level of creative chaos, maybe.
Okay, so we've established this pattern pretty clearly in the West. You know, fire brings torment, knowledge brings exile, collective ambition gets scattered. But what's really fascinating is that this isn't just a Western thing, is it?
Not at all. This theme, genius leading to ruin or hitting hard limits, it echoes across the globe. These warnings about the boundaries of human aspiration, they seem almost universal.
So where should we look next?
Let's look east to India. The Hindu tradition offers a really different take on ingenuity. It's more internalized.
Internalized how?
It's captured in the concept of tapas,
Mm.
often translated as spiritual heat or maybe austere discipline. It's power generated not by external tools, but by immense ascetic practices, sheer willpower.
So you generate power through self-discipline, like really extreme self-discipline.
Exactly. So extreme, it's believed to generate literal heat, a spiritual energy that can actually affect the universe. It's ingenuity focused inward, acquiring cosmic power through, well, incredibly intense self-control.
That sounds like the ultimate form of self-mastery, bending reality through discipline.
It is. You absolutely can gain immense power this way. But, and this is the crucial part, this power is incredibly volatile. It's inherently destabilizing if you pursue it with the wrong intention.
There's the catch.
Always a catch, isn't there? The sources are full of examples, ambitious sages, powerful demons. Think of Ravana.
The demon king from the Ramayana.
That's him. He acquired near invulnerability, incredible cosmic power, through centuries of extreme tapas, extreme devotion. But what happens?
His arrogance takes over.
Precisely. His arrogance, fueled by the very power he gained, leads directly to his downfall. His destruction is sealed by his own hubris.
So it's like the inverse of Prometheus. Prometheus stole external fire, Ravana generated internal fire. But the warning is identical.
Perfectly identical.
Mm.
Power, whether it's physical like fire or spiritual like tapas, if it's divorced from humility, from ethical purpose, it becomes dangerous, fundamentally destructive.
Are there other examples?
Oh, plenty. Stories about powerful sages like Vishvamitra. His willpower, his accumulated tapas was so intense he nearly overturned heaven itself. He threatened the cosmic balance, the Dharma, challenged the authority of the gods like Indra.
Wow, so even spiritual power needs limits.
The warning is crystal clear. Spiritual ingenuity, if it's pursued for ego, for vanity, or to disrupt the established order just because you can, it destabilizes everything. It mirrors Prometheus upsetting Zeus's order, but the battleground is internal, spiritual. The second tapas becomes about selfish gain instead of selfless devotion. It flips, becomes a destructive force needing correction.
Okay, shifting gears again. Mesopotamia, the Epic of Gilgamesh. This offers a different angle, right? More somber, focused on mortality.
Yes, Gilgamesh gives us a perspective centered on the permanence of what we build versus the, well, ultimate brevity of our own lives.
Gilgamesh, the legendary king. He's famous for building something amazing, isn't he?
He is. Celebrated specifically for his engineering genius, he builds the massive, famous walls of Uruk, a truly stunning triumph of human skill, architecture, cooperation, civilization made manifest.
But then the story takes a turn.
A sharp turn. His best friend Enkidu dies, and Gilgamesh is absolutely shattered. He's confronted face to face with his own mortality.
And his quest changes completely.
It becomes desperate. He sets out to achieve eternal life. He tries everything, feats of strength, endurance, seeking out the secrets of the gods, and he fails. Utterly.
The genius who built the city walls that would last forever, he can't make himself last forever.
That's the core tragedy. And the ultimate limit. The walls endure. They're a testament that human ingenuity, our collective work, can outlast the individual inventor. They represent the triumph of the species, in a way.
But Gilgamesh, the man, he has to accept death.
He does. He fails to conquer mortality. So metaphysically, those magnificent walls of Uruk are both his greatest triumph and ultimately his tombstone. Mortality sets that final, non-negotiable limit. No amount of engineering, no amount of power can overcome it.
Ingenuity can buy our species time, maybe permanence for our works, but not for ourselves individually.
That seems to be the stark message. The work endures, the worker vanishes. That's the trade-off.
Fascinating. Now, echoes of the fire story, Prometheus' story, they show up closer to home too, right? In Native American traditions.
Yes, absolutely. Various traditions have stories about acquiring fire, but often with a different framing. It's less about outright theft and divine punishment, and more about cleverness, difficulty, and responsibility.
Can you give an example?
Well, you have stories like the Cherokee tale of the water spider. She succeeds where stronger animals fail, carrying a live coal back to the people in a tiny, damp clay pot she fashions. Or other stories where fire is stolen, maybe from the thunderbird or the sun, often through trickery or bravery.
So the core theme is still there. Fire is powerful, not ours by right, but the ethical focus shifts.
Significantly. What's often missing is that immediate, harsh, eternal punishment like Prometheus got.
So instead of focusing on, fear of divine wrath, what's the emphasis?
It shifts much more towards stewardship, responsibility.
Hmm.
Fire is seen as a gift, maybe borrowed, maybe acquired through cunning, but it demands respect. It requires reciprocity with the natural world.
So wielding fire means entering into a kind of sacred trust.
Exactly. It's not about claiming dominion over nature. It's about accepting the responsibility that comes with this powerful tool. If the Greek model is punitive, break the rules, suffer eternally, the Native American model feels more ethical. The focus is on the duty of care. Use the fire wisely for the community, and try not to mess up the balance of the world around you.
Let's touch on two final ancient warnings. One about the technology of writing itself from Egypt.
Yes, this one is really thought-provoking, preserved by Plato in his dialogue, the Phaedrus. The Egyptian god Thoth, often credited with inventing writing, another huge feat of ingenuity.
Another Promethean gift, in a way?
Absolutely. But Plato recounts the warnings Thoth received from the king, Tammuz. The king wasn't impressed. He actually feared writing would degrade wisdom, not enhance it.
Degrade wisdom how? Wouldn't writing preserve it?
That was the counter-argument. Tammuz worried it would erode memory, that people would rely on external symbols, these dead letters on a page, instead of internalizing knowledge through active recall and oral tradition. It turns living wisdom, passed down person to person, into something static, something you could look up, but not truly know.
Wow, that feels incredibly relevant today. Offloading our memory, our thinking onto devices.
It really does, doesn't it? The warning is ancient. A technology that expands our capacity in one way might simultaneously diminish deeper, maybe more essential, human faculties, convenience masking a kind of cognitive decline.
Chilling. And finally, back to Greece for maybe the purest, most visceral image of individual hubris.
Icarus. You can't talk about limits without talking about Icarus.
His father, Daedalus, master inventor, right? The ultimate engineer. He built wings from feathers and wax to escape imprisonment on Crete.
And the invention works. Daedalus is successful. The wings are a triumph of ingenuity, of physics, of human desire overcoming limitations.
But Icarus, he gets carried away, ignores the warnings.
He ignores his father's specific instructions. Don't fly too low near the sea spray. Don't fly too high near the sun. He gets caught up in the exhilaration, the sheer power of flight. Flies too close to the sun.
And the wax melts. He falls.
Daedalus's craft was perfect. The technology worked. But the tool couldn't save his son from a fundamental failure of character, hubris. Icarus lacked the internal wisdom, the humility, to respect the operational limits that Daedalus, the pragmatic inventor, had clearly laid out.
The tech was fine, the user was flawed.
In a nutshell, yes. And this theme gets picked up later, of course, in European lore with figures like Faust, bargaining his soul for limitless knowledge and power, only to be undone by his own insatiable appetite and the spiritual cost. Across these stories, the danger isn't usually the skill itself. It's the lack of wisdom, the lack of humility needed to govern that skill responsibly.
Okay, so we've journeyed from stealing fire to confusing languages to the tragic fall from the sky. If Prometheus stole god power and Icarus flew too high on tech, what does this look like now? In the age of steam, silicon, genetics.
Well, the myths didn't stop. They just evolved, didn't they? Updated their characters, their settings.
And the big transition point, from ancient gods to modern science, seems to be Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, subtitled The Modern Prometheus.
Exactly. Published in 1818, right as the Industrial Revolution is gathering steam. It's the perfect, terrifying bridge. Victor Frankenstein doesn't steal fire from Olympus. He seizes the secret of life itself through science. Rigorous, methodical, scientific endeavor.
It's the ultimate Promethean act, isn't it? Creating life from dead matter, conquering death itself, in a way.
Absolutely. He achieves what ancient alchemists only dreamed of.
But the story isn't a celebration. It's a gothic horror. Victor is haunted, tormented. His creation becomes this literal monster, destroying everything he loves. So if the science worked, what was the actual crime? Was it playing God? Was the creation itself evil?
This is where Shelley's genius and the mythic resonance really shines. The sources, the text itself, makes it pretty clear that true crime wasn't the act of invention. It wasn't even necessarily defying God, though that's certainly a layer. The core crime was abandonment.
Abandonment.
Yes. Victor creates life, achieves this monumental breakthrough, and what's his first reaction? Horror. Revulsion. He runs away. He rejects his creation the instant it opens its eyes.
So the creature becomes monstrous because it's neglected.
Precisely. Not because it was inherently evil by nature, but because of profound, systematic neglect. A complete absence of nurture, guidance, love, any sense of responsibility from its creator. Victor was brilliant in the lab, but an absolute failure as a parent, as a steward.
That distinction, neglect over the act of creation, that feels like the crucial modern twist on the old myth. Ingenuity without reverence, without that care, that sacred trust we saw in the Cherokee story. It breeds catastrophe.
It really does. Creation becomes an ethical act that demands sustained commitment, ongoing care, not just that initial flash of brilliance.
It forces us to ask, doesn't it? When we create something powerful today, a new AI, a genetic modification, a potent new technology, do we have the moral maturity to handle it, to take responsibility for its integration, its effects?
And if the answer is no, or even maybe, then Shelley's warning echoes that neglected creation, born of our genius but starved of our care, will inevitably turn on us, on its creator, and on the world.
Okay, here's where it gets, as you said, really interesting. Let's jump right to today. Artificial intelligence. Is this the clearest, most intense, modern version of the Promethean dilemma? Fire reborn.
I think it arguably is. It's digital fire, and it possesses a scale and potential impact that dwarfs almost anything that came before.
Because the duality is so stark.
Absolutely stark. AI can potentially cure diseases we thought were incurable, model climate change solutions with incredible accuracy, create art, empower billions, or it can fabricate convincing lies on a global scale, run autonomous weapon systems, enable mass surveillance and control, destabilize economies, maybe even escape our control entirely. It is the double-edged sword writ incredibly large.
And the connection back to Babel feels disturbingly strong.
It really does. We are building this collectively, aren't we? Line of code upon line of code, data set upon data set, model refining model. It's rising skyward through global collaboration, cloud computing, open source projects.
Humanity working almost as one, unified in this technological push, faster than ever before.
And the analogy holds with terrifying precision. Just like Babel, the danger with AI isn't just its height, its raw processing power, its cognitive abilities. It's also about its purpose. And maybe even more importantly, the potential for unprecedented centralization of power.
How so?
Well, if AI development is driven purely by that battle-like ego, let us make a name for ourselves, or by market dominance, military advantage, the ambition of one nation or corporation to control others, then it embodies that same fundamental failure.
We're essentially programming our own hubris into the machine.
We risk doing exactly that, programming our biases, our flaws, our collective vanities into a system with potentially exponential power. And that system will reflect those flaws back at us, but amplified, with terrifying efficiency.
So if the ancient lesson from Babel was that linguistic diversity, that fragmentation, acted as a kind of safeguard against monolithic control, what's the safeguard now, in the age of code and global networks?
That is the multi-trillion-dollar question, isn't it? The modern language is code, data, algorithms, access. Without building in deliberate checks and balances, ethical frameworks, maybe even mechanisms for deliberate decentralization, the singularity of this technological direction could become unstoppable.
We're facing that same core question again.
We are. Are we building this for universal benefit? For wisdom? For human flourishing? Or are we just chasing power, profit, vanity? And maybe the scariest question, are we, the creators, even capable of understanding and managing the consequences this time?
Or are we, like Victor Frankenstein, going to recoil in horror and run away the moment the thing truly wakes up and starts acting in ways we didn't predict?
It's a possibility we have to confront.
So, after tracing this pattern across cultures, across millennia, Prometheus chained, Eden lost, Babel scattered, Icarus fallen, Frankenstein haunted, all these incredibly powerful stories seem to converge on one fundamental and maybe uncomfortable question.
Which is?
Are there limits? Are there actual metaphysical lines that humanity is just not meant to cross? Things we shouldn't try to build or steal or know or code into existence?
It's the ultimate question prompted by these myths. And the answers they provide across the board are remarkably consistent. They focus less on absolute physical prohibitions, thou shalt not build this machine, and more on ethical and spiritual boundaries.
Okay. So what's the consensus from the sources?
There's a resounding agreement, actually. The Greeks warned us that hubris, that arrogant overreach, inevitably shatters the cosmic balance. There are consequences to thinking you're above the natural order.
And the Hebrews?
They emphasize that knowledge and power are potent, but they must be tempered by humility. A profound humility before God, or at least before the vastness of existence. A recognition that we aren't the ultimate arbiters. We didn't create the rules of reality.
And the Hindu concept of tapas
Showed us explicitly that even internal spiritual power, If it's sought just for the ego, for self-aggrandizement, it destabilizes the universal order. It demands correction, often through suffering. Balance must be maintained.
And the modern myths, like Frankenstein.
They drive home the point that creation without sustained care, without responsibility, inevitably turns monstrous. It becomes self-destructive.
So synthesizing all of that, the core conclusion isn't really don't invent or don't seek knowledge.
No, quite the opposite.
Yeah.
Ingenuity, knowledge, they seem to be part of our nature, maybe even sacred in their potential.
Yeah.
Fire, the fruit of knowledge, building towers, crafting wings, designing algorithms.
Mm.
These acts themselves aren't inherently forbidden, but they demand reverence. They demand respect for the power being wielded. The thresholds, the limits suggested by these myths, they exist not as walls to keep us penned in or ignorant, but more like guardrails, protections, boundaries within which human life and the life of the planet can actually flourish safely.
So we're permitted to invent, but we have to handle the power responsibly.
We must. We have to respect the scale and the implications of what we unleash.
Okay. So if we are Prometheus's heirs, if we're destined to carry this fire of invention, this double-edged sword, what's the right way forward? Is there an ethical framework suggested by these ancient warnings, a kind of Promethean ethic?
I think there is. If you synthesize the lessons, especially from stories like Gilgamesh, acceptance of limits, Babel, humility, and Frankenstein, care, the sources seem to define a clear path, an ethic for the modern inventor, resting on three core pillars.
Okay, let's break those down. What are the three pillars for handling our ingenuity, especially now with AI and gene editing and everything else?
The first pillar, building directly on Frankenstein's failure, has to be responsibility.
To create is to care.
Fundamentally, every invention, every new algorithm, every spark of technological novelty, it's like bringing a child into the world, or at least unleashing a powerful force. It requires sustained nurture, ongoing management. It's never enough just to invent the cool new thing.
You have to own the consequences.
For its entire life cycle, you have to commit to managing its integration, its potential harms, its unforeseen effects. That moment of invention, followed by abandonment, just turning away and moving to the next project, that's the modern inventor's cardinal sin, according to this ethic.
Okay, responsibility. That connects directly to the second pillar, doesn't it? Which seems to flow right from Babel, Icarus, Ravana.
Absolutely. The second pillar is humility.
Meaning.
To know something, even to create something powerful, is not the same as mastering the universe. Brilliance, without a constant nagging awareness of our own fallibility, our own biases, our own limits, it collapses into ruin. It becomes dangerous.
Like the Babel builders thinking they'd reached heaven.
Exactly. They lost perspective. Humility requires us to acknowledge that even our most sophisticated creations, like AI, are still products of flawed human minds. They will inherit our biases, our blind spots, our vanities, unless we actively work against that.
So projecting arrogance into an AI
is asking for trouble. The AI will likely execute that arrogance with superhuman, and therefore potentially terrifying, efficiency and scale. Humility means testing, checking, building in safeguards, assuming things will go wrong.
Right. Responsibility, humility. What's the third pillar? You mentioned balance earlier.
Yes. The third pillar, drawing heavily from that Eastern wisdom about cosmic order and also the Native American idea of stewardship, is balance.
Finding it harmony.
Essentially, yes. True knowledge, the kind that leads to wisdom, should ideally deepen harmony. Harmony with the natural world, harmony between different peoples, maybe even internal harmony within ourselves. False knowledge, or knowledge pursued purely for dominance, tends to isolate and disrupt.
So if we invent something just to crush a competitor or exploit a resource faster or control a population,
that knowledge, that technology, is likely creating an imbalance. It might offer short-term gains, but it destabilizes the larger system in the long run. Just like Ravana's ego-driven tapas upset the cosmic order, unrestrained technological or economic dominance upsets the global order.
So the ethic of balance demands we think systemically, long-term.
Exactly. Look beyond the immediate function or profit. What are the ripple effects? What are the second and third order consequences? Does this invention promote overall flourishing, or does it concentrate power and risk in dangerous ways? We need to ask those questions before we deploy, not just clean up the mess afterwards.
Okay, let's try to wrap this up. Prometheus chained, Eden lost, Icarus falling, Frankenstein's creature howling. These aren't just campfire stories, are they? They're not meant to scare us away from progress entirely.
No, I think so. They feel more like deep cultural memories. The collected wisdom of countless generations reminding us that invention, our defining trait perhaps, is inherently sacred, incredibly perilous, and always, always transformative. It changes us.
And the central message, the mandate that echoes through all of them.
It seems remarkably consistent. The fire is ours now. We carry it. Humanity can't really uninvent itself. We seem destined to create, to push boundaries. But the myths plead with us. Carry it carefully. Carry it reverently. Carry it humbly. And carry it with an unwavering commitment to stewardship, to that long-term balance.
To be human is to invent.
But to be wise, truly wise, is to remember the cost of brilliance, to remember the shadows cast by the fire, and to carry that fire without letting it consume us or the world.
Which leaves us, and you, our listener, with a final thought. The myths whisper across time. What new technological fire are we seizing right now? Maybe in AI, maybe in biotech, synthetic biology, neurotechnology. What fire are we grabbing hold of that we haven't yet figured out how to nurture with real, deep responsibility?
And maybe more chillingly, what creature, born of that potential neglect, is already stirring? What unintended consequences starting to take shapes, ready to come knocking at our collective door?
Something for you to mull over.